right. Now we'll do some introductions. Hopefully everybody knows you guys by now, but for the folks who don't, go ahead and start, Marcy.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Marcy, and I am the owner of Taylor B's Beard Oil. You can reach me at taylorbeesbeardoil.com, which is a all-natural organic beard oil and beard grooming product company online. So please look out for it and give me your support. And good evening to Clarence and Gail.
Oh, thank you. I think she, I think Marcy's setting us up for something. We'll find out eventually. Hi, everybody. My name is Clarence, and I'm a retired sergeant from the Chicago Police Department, and also a retired deputy director for police and fire dispatch operations at the Office of Emergency Management, where Gail and Marcy were employed at one time, and that's where I originally met them. And somehow I'm still stuck with them, so I guess this is all right.
Wow, what an introduction. That's okay. We'll get you later.
Uh,
Okay, so tonight I thought since we have to talk about something, I recently sent off to have my DNA analyzed to see like where our family originally came from. So I got it back yesterday, and it's really quite interesting. Um, before I got this back, I was saying that I wanted whatever country that I'm from, at least say 50%. And it's saying it did not say 50% of anything. It's uh I was so, and I was disappointed because it's like I just felt like it was gonna come back all mixed up. And that's exactly what happened. And you know how we all listen to stories from our family. Um, and a lot of us think that we have Native American, but let me tell you, I don't see but 1% Native American in our history, in our DNA. Just 1%. And there's at least 12% European, and I have 29% Nigerian, 27% Cameroonian, Congo, Western Bantu people, and the rest were scattered like Mali, Ivory Coast, Ghana. But I was really, really, really hoping that I could say I'm 50, at least 50% this one country. Because I have a friend, hers is like 51%. And I'm like, get the heck out of here. And
And what's the percentage for Nigerian?
for me it's 29%. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and Cameroon, Congo, Western Bantu is 27. So it's split between the two. So I'm thinking grandma must have had they somebody married from Nigeria and Cameroon. So that's how we got that split like that. Yeah. So
Well, I have mine, and I have 40% Nigerian, but my father's half, well, his one half of his half, they were European, so that comes down at about 5, and it's about the northwestern part of Europe, and it's
mhm.
about 4%. But yeah, Nigeria is 40%, and even split between Cameroon and Congo and the Benin. Then I got about 14% Mali. So, and it looks like they got some Ireland mixed in here, and Spain and Senegal. Actually, Senegal is 1%. So I
Oh,
can't hear you. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like what do we have? 7%. England and Northwestern Europe, Sweden
Oh,
3%,
yes.
Scotland 2%, Senegal
Yeah.
2%, Norway, Ireland, um, Finland, Benin, and Togo. They are all the way down to 1%. Wales 2%. So it's something to be said about a lot of the things that we believe growing up, that stories that are passed down. And it's wonderful that you could try this and get a better picture of what you look like as far as DNA.
I want to do the African American ancestry because they're supposedly they can pinpoint
Mhm.
the actual tribe you come
Really.
from.
Mm.
Yeah, but and my daughter gave my husband and I this as a what is a wedding anniversary, I guess, and um so I've had it for some time, and I wasn't pleased with it either. I wanted at least 50 or 60%
Oh,
on
right.
something black on.
I know. I'm telling
But,
you, I was super,
but
super disappointed.
one of the reasons I did not want to really do it is because they keep, I don't know, they keep your DNA on file with this. That's a little scary to me. I don't know if I should say scary or discerning. Why are you keeping it on file? I don't know.
in case you come up missing, they can identify you by your DNA.
Oh yeah, true. Well, hopefully,
No, no. They,
well,
they do all this type of stuff where they cloning animals and all this. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, you think you're gonna get cloned? It's gonna be two of you.
I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking.
uh, yeah, you never
Well, she
know.
won't be black. That's for sure.
You never know what the
Well,
government
I'm gonna get
might be up to.
When you made
yeah.
that comment, I thought about Get Out, that movie, Get Out.
Well, I'm gonna get the information from you two and and kind of check it out because as far as as far as I know, I'm 100% Negro.
I bet you aren't. I bet you are not. I promise you. You're gonna have some 1 or 2% something else and that and this and that. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
man.
Well, on well, I don't know if I'd say a serious note, but
Mhm.
how accurate is this information?
It's pretty
See,
accurate with your DNA, I think. I would think so.
well,
I saw this
you have
thing
to look
on
at the
channel 11.
review.
Say it again.
You have to look at their reviews. Some people don't believe that there's a. I just believe there's not a 100% accuracy in anything, but some people say they think they're kind of accurate, and then some people have gone to other places and they've been pretty accurate wherever else they gone. That's why I wanted to do the African ancestry one that
Hmm.
they're supposed to be so-called more in depth as
Hmm.
to actually where you come from,
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
gotta expect being black and American in this country, you gotta look at basically the history and the beginning of slavery and stuff. They did not let us procreate with each other. A lot of babies were born
Right.
that
Hmm.
were mixed race if they
Hmm.
didn't make you kill them. So we're the only race of people basically that are kind of like nomads, but then again we're not because Spain went over into the what is the Aztec Indians or whatever they are, and that's how
Yeah.
Mexico and all of them came about. So Europeans have left their seed everywhere. So but
Yeah,
when you look at the history, we really have no actual country to return to.
What did what did you send for a sample of for them to get your DNA? Did you send a hair sample or what did you send?
Oh, it's saliva. You had to
Oh,
swap. Yeah.
oh, it's a swab, and then you put it in a container or
Yes.
something. Uh-huh.
So
Oh,
make sure you don't have COVID when you send it.
okay. Well, I've had 2 tests and both of them came back negative, so I guess I'm
You know I'm messing with you.
yeah, yeah.
They gonna,
Oh yeah, I know.
I
they
had
gonna come and
two.
you got COVID. Because they gonna be like, what this some odd DNA right here.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation right there. I'm telling you, I was going to say that I have two sisters who are half sisters, um and we all did the DNA thing, and it matches us. It tells us that that's our sister, and close relative. So we have the same father, but three different moms, and it all matched. So there's some validity in it. That definitely. And then I saw this special on Channel 11 where they were doing some type of research that where they were coming, like, how these old cold cases from long, 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 many years ago, they were tracing back to try to figure out who this person belonged to. So this one particular woman, her DNA matched to someone who was a killer, like a serial killer. And that, I know that must have been truly creepy. So, and I think it's something that comes on Channel 11 where they do research, and it could be crime, it could be almost about anything, but you give it to this group of researchers, and they trace back, and they go to all these professional companies that help to do the background of all these folks. And it's pretty amazing. And there was a question about whether the ancestry.com or 23andMe or all these things were valid. And it appeared that they ranked up there pretty high as being reputable. So,
Right.
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Marcia, we lost your. Oh, there you are.
yeah. So, what do you think, Clarence? You said you want to do it the ancestry.com. That's all you have to go to. And you can grab
Oh,
it,
okay.
grab your kit. And it took about maybe 10 weeks for me to get.
Mhm.
I think it was about 10 weeks before I got it back. And they said only because of COVID that it took so long. Otherwise, I think it
Yeah.
may have been 8 weeks.
Actually,
So,
it should have been 3 because I think mine was like
really?
mine was like
Whew.
I think it was like a month before I
Oh,
got it
okay.
back. So, but that, like I said, this was several years back.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Before maybe people started going crazy searching their backgrounds, and then I did it because it was on sale, and that's
Oh,
like I might as well jump in now. Oh my gosh. It's just, it's interesting because I started researching. I was trying to trace back, excuse me, to as far back as I could go to whoever was first, like, brought over and enslaved. So, and I was able to trace back to one relative who was born in 1797. So, and a lot of what I found matched up to the records that I found at the archives here in Chicago. And it was over there like 79th or 70 something in either Pulaski or Cicero, the National Archives. So I went over there doing work like on their microfiche and all that. That was like madness. So I decided to try it through here, computers, everything quick and fast. And it actually matched. And when I started looking back at who was born where, a lot of them, it started matching up to Virginia. And when I went through ancestry, that's exactly what it was. And I was really, really surprised. And it hit me like hard when you see your family on a list of property. And they he my grandfather, I can't tell you how many times back, maybe fifth, he was he was like one of the oldest men there. And then there was another
Oh,
woman, I think he was 65 and she was like 50, and then everybody else was younger. But the guy owned like 16 people. And I had never in my life seen anything like that. And that hurt me like so much, because we will never ever ever imagine what that was like, ever.
Yeah.
And
In other words, he's listed as the property of Mr.
yeah.
So and so or
Hmm.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna do it, and uh, I'll probably wind up getting pissed off, but I'm
Oh,
gonna
you
do it.
will. You
But I'm gonna do it anyway.
you will. And I think I was angry and just hurt because you just can't imagine. And this is your life that you, from the moment you wake up till you go to bed and everything in between, you're owned by somebody, like when we own animals, dogs, and they have to, we're at the mercy of whatever they wanted, whatever their whim was. At
Mhm.
any time, it didn't matter. So, and,
right.
And
and as MJ was saying, as far as when women have their children, they couldn't even nurse their own babies because they were nursing the master's wife's baby, and because she was too delicate to be nursing a baby. And even before that, he didn't want to have sex with her because she's too delicate to have sex. So you go and rip this poor lady that you have enslaved and make her have sex with you. It's just, and that's just what we know. We don't know really anything about,
Oh yeah,
and
we don't
you know.
probably and never probably will.
No, we
You
never
know,
will. Right,
just
right.
the that the barbar even just their barbaric ways. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how they had to how they what they had to endure and how they had to live
Right.
with these people.
Yeah, it's just,
and and and, and we get into the conversation of the impact
Right.
that even though we were not alive back in the 1700s, the 1800s, it still impacted us simply because as generations moved forward, they they brought a lot of that with them because it's just part of, and what we're discussing is part of your DNA. It's
Right.
part of who you are as an individual, and you pass that along. That's why when we get into discussions about generational wealth, that's part of that whole situation. And getting the people whose many of their ancestors enslaved us, getting them to understand that they benefited from that in some way. And they look at you and like, well, no, I worked hard. I did everything myself. Yeah, okay,
No, you
right.
didn't. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. Uh, you you benefited as a result of some things that were done before you were even born, just like
Exactly.
some things that we are dealing with. And a lot of times we don't understand why we may have some of the feelings that we have. it's a carryover.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I believe that. Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
believe that too.
Um, and even, I mean, even with a lot of our foods and a lot of things that ways that we have, we maintain a little bit, a little bit of our African um heritage, but basically overall, everything was lost. Most everything
Hmm.
was lost.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably uh, a lot of times I've heard people say that when they interact with actual people from Africa who may be here visiting, going to school, or whatever, they look at us differently because they came from the continent of Africa and they came over here to study or whatever, and they don't readily assimilate with us even though we have the same skin color. It's there's still we're still viewed as being different, and that can be confusing.
Well, when you have settlers around the world, they pretty much have tainted who we are. So then now these people have their preconceived, and the whole mission was to make sure that you, I mean, like they would, I forgot what they call it, but the whole mission was to make sure that you make someone else think that they're better than that group, the same way they did with some of
Mhm.
the light skinned slaves and the dark skinned slaves. You know, they could stay in the house, and you put that thing in their mind, especially when they're unlearned, and let them know, hey, you're better than that one out there because I've allowed you to come into my house. So you know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
almost like, okay, we give you, like you give a mouse cheese, you give them a little piece of cheese to let them know, okay, I like you to this point, but you know you eventually you only doing it to kill them. So, but I'm getting all off. But what I'm saying is, it's almost like you just give them a little something to let them know that, hey, this is why I did this, because you're better than them out there. So now you're building that divide mentally, and this has been carried down through generations and generations. Because I had someone that I worked with years ago, and her grandmother, she was mixed race because her parents were mixed race, and her grandmother was really really dark woman, and she was getting married. They were Jehovah Witnesses, and her grandmother did not want her to have any dark people in her wedding. None.
Mhm.
They had to be a certain skin tone. And she showed me a picture of her grandmother. Her grandmother was darker than all three of us put together.
Yeah.
But the lady had such self hatred, and all her children were by a white man who was actually featured in, I believe, Jet magazine at
Mhm.
one time years ago, I think in the early 1970s or 80s, where he had like over 200 and something children. All her children was by this man, and they were never married. I think she had like 10 kids,
Mhm.
something like that. He was famous for this as the man who had the I think he had the most kids in the world or something. A lot of them, a lot. He had
Okay.
fathered a
Yeah.
lot of children, yeah, and her grandmother was one of them. But she was appalled with it because her best friend was a Jamaican girl, that
Yeah.
she went to college with. But her
Hmm.
grandmother gave her a very, very hard time, did not want her to have anyone dark in her
Hmm.
wedding.
I've heard that. I've heard that. Um, even I've heard it within my own family where, not at my immediate, like my mom and us, but like the grandmother and that. I've heard. that one of them preferred the lighter skinned person to be married to their daughter or son. And I thought that was so absolutely ridiculous because in our household, we come in a lot of different tones and we don't my mom didn't tolerate us making any difference or calling each other out of our names and referring to any type of skin color at all. That was not
Yeah,
tolerated. And I think
that's
that maybe that's one of the reasons why she was so adamant about teaching us, no, you don't do that. We don't do that in this house. So a
Mhm.
lot of that definitely um, it stayed with us. And then a lot of the separation of the families, separating the man from the woman and not letting her be with her children. And, you know, as you look down through history, or maybe somebody in your family, you may have heard about an aunt or someone who left their child with a grandma or somebody while they go off and work and do this. And I'm talking about the mom. Um, and I've seen the effect of that on kids. That separation, it never gets filled. That time lost will never be regained. It affects the kid in a very negative way, and you don't. At the time, you think you're doing something good. You may have to had to go work someplace else, but I thought about it when I was doing all this research, and I thought about the ways that we are right today, and it's almost like it is a direct result. We it has to be of how we what we suffered, and because a lot of the African families from different countries, they they live together in a compound. They you find that a lot. They live together in a compound. So, but that's not necessarily true here. But originally, when we first came out of slavery, a lot of us, of course, we stayed together to help each other. Um, but a lot of those families through the years, and not only African, but you find it in other cultures that they will stay together as a unit to help each other, and we don't we don't so much, not anymore, not from the time like when I grew up in the '60s. And were you gonna say something,
Well,
Clarence?
Gail, look at this. Uh, the fact that the immigration policy of the Trump administration was to actually separate children from their parents who were fleeing uh, those uh, 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 those countries to come to America. And when they got here, the first thing they did was took their children away from them and then deported them back to the country that they came from. Those southern countries that they were escaping from, they took these people's children away from them. And we're talking about kids that were maybe 2 years old or 3 years old, or
Mhm.
they showed a picture of this kid was just crying his eyes out, her eyes
Mhm.
out. It was a little girl, and she was probably about 3 years old, and they posted that picture. I mean that because it was on film, so they were able to show it as part of the news, and they kept showing it. And this little girl was just crying her eyes out because they had taken her mother away from her, and that that will traumatize that kid for the rest of her life. She will be
Mhm.
traumatized by that because nobody's going to be able to explain to her why her mother left her, because that's the impression she's going to get, that she's going to
right.
grow up with that, and that's going to affect how she lives her life.
Absolutely.
Oh, they knew what they was doing.
Oh yeah, they it was a it was a policy and they have found out that it was the policy to
Oh yeah.
separate children from their migrant parents and to send the parents back. It was a
America has a history of
previous
destroying
administration.
destroying families so that they won't have the type of, I mean, you when you destroy families, you destroy a stronghold. So,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
they want to make sure that their stronghold is tight. No matter what they do, they want to make sure their stronghold is tight. They want to make sure that they see that imagery and make sure that this is how we're supposed to live. So, and that's what happens. I think a lot of destruction was done not just physically, but the mental is the thing.
Yeah.
Now you got this child that believed that her mom abandoned her. So then, as that child gets older, what does that child do?
Hmm.
Yeah, the
Right.
child gonna cry and stuff, but now the child hates the mother. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. And
So
if
Right.
she has children,
yeah,
what is going to be the impact on
exactly,
her children?
exactly. Or even if she even ever have any children, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? I mean, the same way that we've been destroyed, and no pun intended for anyone. You got some women that grow up because they've seen so much destruction by black men. I'm talking about us as black. They choose not to want to even be with black men, whether they with another woman or or with another of race of men. And the same way with some black men. I mean, and that's the thing. That psychological warfare is more damaging than anything physical.
Right.
I believe.
Yeah. Well, you all have heard me say that integration did not do us any favors, and
Nope.
it didn't.
Yeah.
It was somebody else's agenda.
Right. Because we sure didn't integrate.
No.
We were more
Especially,
we were more segregated. We began to be segregated from each other. We were more segregated. So
yeah,
uh,
especially Chicago. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My
the
gosh.
number fifth
Absolutely.
city in the number, aren't we number 5 is the most segregated?
Yeah, we
I
up
don't know.
there.
Yeah, we'll probably always remain remain so. Um,
They're gonna keep it that way.
right. So
Yeah,
what I was
go ahead.
when I was talking about being separated and how far that went, who would ever think that? Because I used to wonder when I was a kid why that occurred so much in the families, back from wherever you're from. But our family primarily from the South, and I truly did. I used to wonder all the time, uh, why was that okay? Because even my mom talks about her parents. They did the same thing. They left her with our great aunt, with her actually great aunt. For me, it was great great, and that feeling for her, it never went away. She always talks about it in a real sad way, like she felt unwanted by either parent, when actually that's probably not the truth at all. They
Oh,
needed to work,
yeah,
but that separation and how people felt that it was okay to do it for a long period of time, not just a couple of weeks, but years.
Mhm.
That's when that damage set in. And I'm willing to bet it's a direct relation to slavery. I really do.
Yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't doubt that because it's it's the idea of uh, destroying a destroying the family unit or the idea of a family unit. A lot of it has been destroyed amongst uh, uh, amongst people of color. Uh, a lot of them don't understand what it means to have a family unit and what that
Mm-hmm.
means. And I think that's because over a period of generations, uh, that, that has creeped in, part of that thought process has creeped into a lot of families. And you get a lot of families are not as strong as you can see some other uh, uh, races of people. They have strong family ties. And we may or may not have,
Mm-hmm.
or may not have families that have strong family ties. But I see other races of people, whenever you encounter them, they have good, strong family ties because it hasn't been disrupted as much.
Right. Ours was
Oh, well,
nearly
when they get over,
destroyed.
when they, yeah, when a lot of them get over here and assimilate, they have their issues too. Yeah, yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. But we don't mean as far as assimilating. We just mean the effects of slavery that affected our the way that we live and the way that we are and the way that we move with it within the family unit. It affected a lot. And then for um as you said, Clarence, a lot of us do have that strong family unit, and some of us don't. And I mean, I don't know. I can't guess the percentages, but there's a huge number that don't have that. And
Yeah,
you need that in order to be able to grow and to thrive. I think. I think so.
Well, yeah, you do. But just think of it this way as well. When we have, and because a lot of us are aware of that, what has to happen and what I have experienced and what has happened is then now it may not be your blood family, but you start to have a family of sisterhood with other people, other blacks that have the same history as you. And because now you're on the same level. You know what I'm saying? Not the same level, but you're on the same um uh what do you call it? Spiritual thing, should I say, or however you want to put it. In years past, the church has been so important when it's come to Black people because of the destruction. And you may not have that full family unit there, but you have that family, the family unit that's blood tied, but you have a family unit that might be like your friends, people that you meet
Yeah,
on the job, school. You start to have this sisterhood
like an
and
extended family.
exactly. And the
Hmm.
men, they start to have this sisterhood. So now here you are, and you guys are building and building as you go, as years go on. And because I think it starts so closely knit, say for instance, like when Latricia Arnold is my best friend. We met there at the job, but yet we also both worked with a friend of ours named Stephanie, who she worked with her at somewhere else, and I worked with her at Ernst and Young. And when we found out, we had that collaboration, like, wow, here we are. And we all still have this kind of sisterhood that where we still are friends, and and now Latrice and I have kind of like become family, and I've become family with her family members, and she has become family with my family members. And now you do have that family union, you do have that stronghold, and you carry these people throughout your lifetime. You know what I'm saying? They may be your best friends, but those people are people you go and cry to. Those people need
Right.
help. You cry, you get help from them. Those people are the ones that give you that encouragement. So I try to look at it that way, because no, you might I have a friend who doesn't have family. We met on a job, and we're still friends. We're
Hmm.
really good friends. She has no brother and sisters. You know what I'm saying? She has no aunts. Or she got one aunt, and she's much older. But what I'm saying, she never had any siblings, so her friends were her family. You know what I'm saying? And she can meet friends all day long, but her set of friends that she met when she not so much really needed anybody, but when she kind of grew up with them, she still had them. You know, she
Right,
had a
right.
best friend. She wound up marrying
Hmm.
her best friend's brother, and now they've been together and married for more than 10 years now. You know what I'm saying? So that family unit is still there, but it may not have that blood tie. And I
Hmm.
think we kind of gravitate to each other like that when we come across somebody um, that we know, and then we start to love them like family, as they call, what did they call it, that agape love that you start
Hmm.
having this person. And now
Right.
I think a lot of times we look at them as being our family, but that, like I
Hmm.
said, that blood tie is not there. And
Hmm.
sometimes that blood tie does not matter. It's that
Right. Well,
emotional,
we
spiritual tie that you have
right.
with someone that you can connect with. And now this person is in your family. And even men, I'm not leaving them out. I'm just saying, even men. I have male friends that I treasure, that I've had for years, and I love
Hmm.
them to death, you know. And I
Right.
have
Well,
one blood brother.
I had my aunt who raised my mother. She also raised us. And she, I don't know if you all heard the term other mother. That's
Yeah.
what she was for a lot of the kids and a lot of the grown-ups in the neighborhood. And
Hmm.
they would bring their kids to her because they needed childcare and they needed somebody to help them that they could trust to take care of their kids. So that our house and my aunt became that other mother. She was the other mother for us and for my mom and many, many others. So that woman is an important person in the community. I don't know so much about now. I don't hear a lot about it. But when I was growing up, we definitely had other mothers.
Yeah,
So,
you did. And you had fathers, or you had that one that you
mm,
grow up when you thought it was your uncle, and man, ain't no kin to you. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
we look as being that uncle. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Uh,
right.
always there. You know, that person was always there. So I think, and Black people are some of the most, and I think this is how sometimes we get taken by some things, because we're very accommodating, welcoming, compassionate people as a whole. I really do believe that. You know,
Yeah.
just in my experiences of the 50 some years I've been here, I really believe that we're very
Hmm.
accommodating and compassionate about a whole lot of things, you know.
Hmm.
I agree.
Saying that I'm other races or whatever, because it's not about that, but I'm just saying us as a whole, I believe that we are very much so.
Did either one of you happen to see the segment on Channel 11 about the Black church?
I saw some of
I
it, but
missed
not a
it.
lot
Yeah,
of it.
Yeah, I
I
missed
missed
it,
it.
and,
Hmm.
and I'm waiting for it to come back on. I think it was a PBS produced,
It was.
but it was on Channel 11, I think it was.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and
I want to see that
I think
because
it might some of it might be on YouTube where you could go and check it out, but I haven't yet.
mhm,
But I
yeah,
really wanted to see what they were saying because just as what we're talking about, coming out of slavery, not having, you couldn't read, write, had nothing, no place to go. Um, and that the black church was over time, was the thing that held us. We couldn't have made it without it. You know, that's pretty much what
yeah.
uh we know that. We know that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think
And that's
as
basically just hope.
and
So
I and I think as we got away from the church. I think that's when we begin to have a lot of the issues that are in the Black community today, because the church was an integral part of our lifestyle. Was church. It had a tremendous impact on us as people to be able to uh, be able, because a lot of times the church was where a lot of people got to socialize and to meet people. Uh, I mean, I look at my church and it's an older church. In fact, our church is 102 years old. And I look at the older members of the church, and since the church has been closed, it has really impacted on our older members, because for a lot of them, they didn't see their friends until they went to church on Sunday. They would, talk to them on the phone maybe, but they didn't physically see them until they went to church. And that meant a whole lot to them to be able to do that. And the fact that our church has been on lockdown since March of last year, uh, and we do streamline, and we've set up conference calls for various programs. Our Sunday school is on conference call, and you can just feel the anxiety in some of them when they call in, and some of them are just so glad to just hear their friend's voice, uh, because right now that's all they can do is hear their friend's voice. They can't see them because
Right.
church is not open. So the church has a lot of impact as it relates to Black life. It really does.
Hmm. Mm. Well, when we were doing the like 4-part segment on reinvesting in the community, reinvesting in ourselves, and we had Dr. Barlow on, and all of us pretty much agreed that depending on whose church and who's in charge, and the goal and the outreach changed. It changed, and it didn't support the needs of the people over time, and then that
Mhm.
the people fell away from the church. So I mean that's like a whole another discussion which we did have, but
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
It's another
it did.
discussion to be had.
And for a while, I went through a head thing too when it came to the church, because I could not, well, for years, not so much the church, but the religion of Christianity itself and the whole history behind it, and how we got to Christianity and how we got to that point. And I just, it's almost like when you start looking at history and you start looking at and reading about history, I would tell anybody your faith is going to dwindle, especially when you start looking at the history of this country and how religion itself would even came about in regards to Christianity, because we were stripped of everything that we had, and told, basically just stripped of everything that we had, and then now here is this foreigner, this white man who has brought us here to this land, and now he's forcing his history and his religion on us, and it was used as a weapon of control. And here we are now. We embrace it more so than they do, except for southern uh, whites. You know what I'm saying? But here we are, and we embrace it more so than they do, and we rely on it. But Gail, you were right when he was talking about how it has changed, because when I was growing up, if you needed something, you went to the church. You know what I'm saying? If a family didn't have any food to eat or whatever, you went to the church. They found you a job. And some of the
right.
southern are still like that because
Hmm.
I have a friend that I spoke about earlier. I remember when she was not working, and I mean, she lives in this big old house, and the church gave her a job till she got on her feet.
Hmm.
But what
Hmm.
she had to do, she had to pay it forward. So when someone else came and they was looking for help, or they were a member of that church, they became a roommate till they got on their feet, and then they kept passing it. And I was like, see, now that's
Hmm.
how that used to be. So they
Right.
gave her a job to make sure that she met her bills. And then, then she had to also bring somebody into to the fold and have given them a place to live. And then that
Hmm.
person, when they got on their feet, they had to do the
Okay.
same,
On and on. Right. And I
on and
think
on,
that,
have to
right.
pay it forward. And after that, she flourished. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? She flourished, but she knew her stronghold. She knew where she had to go in order for her to get that assistance, so that she wouldn't falter, or not really falter, but or should I say, so she wouldn't get so far behind that she would wind up being homeless. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so I
Well,
think that's
yeah.
that's the structure that's not there anymore, and it has gotten away from that.
Right. And
And I'm not gonna
just
say
as just
all.
as just as with everything else, that's supposed to be where the people are, it's supposed to be people centered services and everything else people centered. Then you have to adapt to what the people need, and it appears that in a lot of cases the church didn't do that. And MJ, you are right about how Christianity was manipulated and used to, I would say, pretty much kind of destroy us. It took everything that we thought we were, in as far as African religions and customs, and it was told it's bad, and you stopped doing that. You couldn't even speak your language. It was just all of these influences that Europeans brought to African, and
Yeah, it's actually
it
the
was it
Catholic
was
Church.
for
Yeah,
complete what I'm saying, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean. And then just the total control, that's what it was used for.
absolutely.
And even as far as reading the Bible, it's just so many things how they manipulated it and interpreted things to for what they wanted. We all know that. If we don't know that, we should. It's 2021. You should know that by now. um
Absolutely.
It's it,
Absolutely.
it's
And I
the bottom
don't care if
line.
anyone don't agree or agree. You should know that by now. You should. You
Yeah.
have to know who you are, how we were, and it makes you stronger. And I took that on when I was younger, because I looked at the fact that every time something came up in our community, and it's all over the news or this and that, we're the only group of people that rely on leaders. I don't understand that. I just don't. We have to have somebody that has to speak for us.
but
Hmm.
you know
Oh
what,
my,
MJ,
oh
I
my
don't I
Lord.
don't think that's a written rule. I think I just feel like these, it was almost like the
And
talented
everybody
10.
gets to
It
tell us
was,
how
but wait a minute,
how
hang
our
on. It was
community
almost
looks.
like the talented 10. They organized and they would say they're speaking for the community, but who? What community? Who are you speaking for? And I'm telling you, it just seems like we didn't pick that person, but people tend to fall in behind them because they stepped into that role. I don't know. What do you think, Clarence? That's how I've seen it.
Well, so a lot of times we get caught up in somebody who uh, can have the gift of gab, and they sound good when they're saying things. But if a lot of times, if you just listen to what they're saying, they're talking out of both sides of their mouths. But
Absolutely.
but a lot of times we get caught up in the superficial. It sounds good. Our pastor, uh, our pastor always tells us He said, I can tell you uh, what the Bible says, and I can tell you the message that I get from it. He said, but I always say, go read it for yourself so that
Absolutely.
you can get your own understanding. And you have to go in prayer and you have to pray for understanding because sometimes the Bible can be very difficult to read. That's why you got different
Right.
versions.
Especially with whole books missing and
Right.
portions of it incomplete and
Hmm.
portions of it, well, we don't know who this really was who wrote this book, and but it's in here, and it's just some parts of it. That's what it says when you look at who wrote it, so that they can identify that person. Well, we're not sure, So
Hmm.
it's
And they'll say
when you're
they're not
talking
sure.
about right.
Yeah. But,
So
And you look at the history of some of the ones who have written it. You look at their history and who they were as a person or people, like King James. I won't even go into it right now, but and people say, "Oh, well, people change." Well, we're living our life by this man's words, and this man was awful. He was
and
awful.
he wrote it. I mean, come on, it
He didn't
says
write it
his
down. He
version.
had
It says
scholars
this Bible
who
was
wrote
his
it.
version. He wrote so come on now.
Yeah,
well,
he
Um
had scholars to write it. So and I know I hope people don't get all upset and this and that. You know what I'm saying? But my thing is, you have to know history, which is his story, and I always get so twisted and so dissected. It's not even funny, but you have to know. And I don't have all the answers, you guys don't have all the answers, or anything, and then
mhm.
people say, oh wait, you get somebody's diluted version of something.
Right.
No, not all the time, you know what I'm saying.
And some
And
things
I just, some people
you
don't
don't have
care
to
to know,
be
that's
right.
fine.
But some things you
But
don't have to be a scholar to understand. All you need to
understand.
do is just read with some discernment, understanding this part of this story is missing. What is this? Is this real? Is this portion true? Especially, um, well, here's one really solid example of how men were allowed to treat women. Where in the Bible did it say that you can beat women with your stick or beat women? Period. I don't remember seeing that. I mean,
Right,
it's
or
I
assault
remember
women,
seeing
all of it.
that women were supposed to be treated as if they are a member of his own body. So, but then they come up with these laws that could beat women with the whatever, you know, and that and a lot of these men were supposed to be Christian men, and as you said too, women couldn't speak. They had to dress according to how he felt that she should dress. So, and these were the ministers.
Well, you had, well, look at Europe and Spain when they would go and conquer these other countries. They would see themselves as Christian, and they destroyed whole civilizations in the name of Christianity, in the name of the king or the queen or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm
Mhm.
not saying I'm Christianity, but what I'm saying is we're living by these writings, or we're living
Mhm.
by these people's view of how the world was at the time, or how the world should be, and
Right.
they push on to other civilizations and things like
Mhm.
that, and made,
Mhm.
that this is the way that that's supposed to be, and they
Mhm.
used religion. And I tell people all the time, you really want to get a clear view of how religion can be used to manipulate a person or people. The Book of Eli, that movie, you will get, if you don't go and look at that movie with eyes wide open, it tells you. I mean, it clear. them brothers, they wrote a piece, that movie.
That movie was
I,
excellent, and it
that
really,
movie,
it should
it
have
was
shaken
very
you
cool.
to, yeah, it should
Yeah,
have shaken you to, you
to your
know,
core. Yeah.
understand completely. And another thing about Christianity, a lot of these people who, well, that's part of our whole point. Um, but
Hi
even
guys.
here, hey, we saw you dropped out.
Yeah, my computer went off.
Mine kept doing that too. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh, well, isn't that something in today so far? I'm doing okay over here. It's usually me. It's usually me. But what I was going to say, just the whole agreement and that they wanted us to be enslaved. And just everything about it, just from writing the Constitution and then including us as three-fifths a person so that they could have more, so that they can show that they had more, that they could count us as people so that they could have more strength. And just all of these things. And in the South, and still today, that's the Bible Belt. That's the Bible Belt. So
Oh, absolutely.
you have to think. And I'm not I know people won't agree. I'm not a racist person, but I'm going to say, to me, when it comes to white people, right is right and wrong is right. You know, and what you were saying earlier today, Clarence and Marcy, we are forgiving people. We're very compassionate. Um, we're we're very accommodating, even to the point that I've had times where I would be in classes in grad school, and the material being taught was clearly racist. And at a point, I just got so fed up that I stood up and I said it, and I really went in on the instructor, and I told her, I said, this material is racist. And she said, oh, you should reach out to the author. I'm like, no, I'm talking to you because you write the curriculum and you choose the text. And this is
Absolutely.
somebody who lived in Hyde Park and is supposed to be so liberal. And that's another thing. I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, but I'm just saying, for a lot of people, um, you know, who say that they're liberal and they're for, they're not racist and they're not this, and then I think they don't even realize that they're racist because it's so
Oh,
systemic.
no.
It's embedded in everything. And I really feel like that's what's wrong with a lot of us, is that it's so embedded that you don't really see it, and we're so caught up in being nice. You don't have to be nice. I understand being kind, but damn, being nice, because right is right and wrong is wrong, and I mean that. You gotta understand there's a clear difference between being nice and being kind. And I don't care whatever happens with that group, if something goes down, it's going to come down to, they're going to stand by they're going to support them, whether they're wrong or not. They're going to support them, and
Yep.
they will not understand. They will totally claim they don't understand why we're so upset for
You
something that
know,
terrible that they could have done to us, but they will totally support wrong on their side. So I'm just, and that's why I'm saying, I think
backlash.
slavery, I don't want to cuss on here, but I know, and them using Christianity, it really effed a lot of our way of thinking up. It really did. And we gotta come clear of it. We really do.
Well, look at the medical community, and they just touched on that. And I was watching something on PBS, and it talked about it even in this times of COVID. Like we talked about, remember the week before last when I said I had my experience with an emergency room. I clearly knew that I had appendicitis, but yet he wants to tell me that I have a sexually transmitted disease. Well, on this PBS special, there was a young lady who was going through the same thing. And the female doctor was more so looking at the fact that, oh no, it's you probably got a STD or something. And she's clearly going back and forth with her. And this lady was relentless. And even in the medical community, like we talked about, you said someone you know in the nurses tech, where it
Yes.
talks about text where it talks about our pain tolerance is very high
Hmm.
because they believe that because of the trauma of slavery. See, on one hand, when they want to justify something, slavery existed.
Exactly.
On the other hand, when they don't, it didn't exist, or you all are just exaggerating. So you
You
telling
just
me
need to get over it.
my pain
Yeah, that's what they
tolerance is
tell us.
high
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
your history, you went all that pain you went through
Mhm.
slavery. That has nothing to do with me right here and now. I'm a human
And
being. I ache
and
and I have
see,
pain.
right. And
You know, but
that
we
is
don't
something,
complain a lot because of the fact that it sometimes it's useless to complain because at this moment and at this time and in this space that I stand right now when I'm in pain, there's nothing else that I can do about it. So why not pain? I mean, why say anything? There's no
you
point
know
in
what?
complaining about it.
Exactly.
You know,
I've seen that happen too, Marcella. And I think, and there's that thing sometimes, oh, I don't want to complain, or I don't want to be a problem. But let me tell you, if that was one of them, oh, they would be a problem and they would
oh yeah,
complain. And
yeah.
we have every right to complain and to be a problem. And that's why I'm saying there is a clear difference between nice and being kind. And you can't be nice when you need to be speaking up. You have to say something when you need to
And
be saying something. And you better, because as we're saying right now, they don't even believe that we feel pain the way other folks do.
yeah,
And that is real. We're talking
crazy.
about real today, 2021, and their medical people are being taught that we don't feel pain as much as
Yeah,
anybody else. That
they
is the
did
most
a study.
outrageous crap I ever heard in my life.
They did a study with 100 white male residents, and 90% of them felt that way. They
Mhm,
felt that way. That's why white male doctors and black female patients do not mix.
mhm, mhm,
And this is why I left them alone a long time
mhm.
ago. Because you got to look at the medical community for women, period, the history behind it, and
Oh
all
my
the
God.
sciences and the diabolical things that these white male doctors did to women, period.
They sure
Yeah.
did. They
Yeah.
They
experimented.
mutilated them. So,
Yes.
and these are white women. So I can only imagine how they use us as guinea pigs and test subjects. You know what I'm saying? Cutting us open, cutting women open, and giving them hysterectomies and this and that, and then throwing them away because now they can't have children.
And then on
And
top of that, they did it all without any anesthesia, any type
exactly.
of,
Any anesthesia.
yeah.
That's why we had to take
Mm-mm.
that statue down in New York of this one doctor. He was basically a mad scientist, a murderer. And then the 600,000 hysterectomies are given. 75% are African American women.
And you know
And
something?
about 30,
Right.
40% are under the age of 25 years old. If I
Hmm.
have my numbers correctly, I have to look
Hmm.
at that
Hmm.
again.
And
But
that's something that you have to that I'm questioning too,
exactly.
because even
And we
even
will question it. And they
right.
will just shut you down. And what I was
Hmm.
just talking about as far as the young girl with the pain, she said that. And she said the doctor had the nerve to tell her, well, I don't want to give you any more oxycontin because you might get hooked on it.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
So she just felt by her being a black female, she was going to get hooked, not oxycontin, but well, morphine or whatever. So she told her, I'm just going to give you some Tylenol 3 or what have you. So we're just assuming because she's a young black female, if you give her this medication, she's going to be a drug addict.
Well, guys, I'm getting ready to go.
Okay.
But I do want to say this one last thing, Clarence, and I'm sure you guys agree. When it comes down to it, I made the decision a long time ago, because sometimes I would be the only Black in the room, and I would find myself trying to make everybody else comfortable with me. And I think that's something that, and if anyone is listening, I think that's something that we have to kind of assess and stop stop allowing ourselves to have to teach, or stop allowing ourselves to have to be uncomfortable so everybody else can be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
made a decision to do that, because
Mm-hmm.
it was something that happened on the job when you were at Clarence. I gotta remember. I wanted to tell you about it, but and I had to just stop and say, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm just not going. I don't care how you feel.
But see, that's what I was talking. That's what I was alluding to about
And
being
a lot of
nice and
us
being kind,
do
and
do
a lot
that.
of that
That's a
is
lot of, yeah,
trying to
that's
accommodate. And you,
stress.
for what? What are you
Yeah,
doing that? Why are we? Why do we? Why are we
exactly.
doing that? There's no reason
Yeah.
for it. None.
I wish I wish you had a came to me when I was there and shared that with me. I'd have did my best to respond to it.
And and I had to think back over some years and my life, and even in my 30s and my 40s, and I was like, you know what, I'm not doing that shit no more. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
And I don't do it. I don't do it at all. I don't care how comfortable or uncomfortable you are. And the thing is, I wouldn't even say it was anything that had to do with them. This is just something that I had in me, because we're accommodating people and we want everybody to just be comfortable with us. And I would actually have to say that that was something I was doing on my own. And I had to really kind of like assess myself and just like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
And yeah,
What are
Well,
I
you
one of
doing?
understand.
these
I understand 100% what you're talking about.
one of
And I
these
think,
days, one of these days I'll share some stories with you guys when I was there.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
when I went upstairs. It, it it was quite interesting.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. But I gotta go now. But it's always fun
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
talking with
we're
you.
gonna close anyway because we went over a little bit over. Okay, everybody who watching Shy Panther and Friends show, you know how we do, so don't be surprised. Um,
Don't be offended. Don't be offended.
oh no,
We're
don't be
just
offended.
regular
We're
people.
just sharing, some truth, and we don't get up here to lie about people or slander people. We share the truth. So, uh, and that's how it goes on Shy Panther and Friends show. We hope to see you next week. And you can reach out to us at Shy Panther and Friends Show #1 at gmail.com. And thank you. Take care of yourselves and your neighbor. Good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Okay, I'm trying to stop this recording.